this one's going to make me sound like a psychopath. It might seem like a guide on how to manipulate people, but really it's about trying to look at people's behaviors and figure out what that means and what they truly value. I want to start off with some stuff that happened when I used to work in an office at Microsoft. To just give a really good example of how there's like game theory type elements when it comes to interacting with other people that I don't think most people keep in the front of their mind. So I had a job where at one point in time I was responsible for creating a system that would make it so that way we could have a brand new robot in a factory that's supposed to verify that an Xbox has been correctly assembled. And I knew that this system would only have a lifespan of 6 months to a year because we were going to move to this big cloud solution. I don't really understand why this was the business solution they went with, but the important things are I need to make something so you can take a arbitrary robot and determine if the robot was made correctly. These robots would determine if Xboxes were made correctly. And I knew that this project would only be in production for like a year. And so there's this element of speed that everybody who knows about this project should understand is incredibly valuable. Because if I can get this done faster, it can be alive longer. It has a defined date of death. So trying to make it the best thing ever just doesn't really make sense. And I was having these meetings and I was getting really tied up by this one manager on another team. And eventually my manager stops me and says, you know, that guy is trying to block you so that way you ditch this project and his team can take it because we'll work well. And so then they can just get something out really fast and look good. And I then instantaneously changed how I interacted with this guy. So what I then did was before the next meeting I had with this dude, and remember, he's like old white dude, like 55 years old. I know he has a wife and kids, and I know that he switched to working to Microsoft because he could then go from making like 150K a year to like making around $500,000 a year as a manager. So I know he's like motivated by money. And I also knew that he sold a software project to his last employer for a couple $100,000 because he made it in his spare time. I don't really know how that works out. That sounds crazy to me. But I knew all these things about him because he's like a really charismatic guy. And when I was a new employee, before we had to do any work together, this was about a year before this bullshit with him happened, I had all this information about who he is as a person. And so then I'm thinking, I want this guy to stop blocking me. And I also didn't really like my job at the time. I was kind of hoping I'd get fired or something. And so I had a new strategy then when I went into a meeting and he blocked me. Right before this next meeting, I made sure to mention that I had not sold any of my Microsoft stock. So this way, this guy knows that I had a couple $100,000 in assets. And then we get into this meeting and he starts saying stupid shit to try to derail me. And I just instantly kind of push the conversation into a way that is just not safe for work. That could be like an HR violation, like fucking instantaneously and implying that he doesn't respect me due to my age. And why did I do this? Because I wanted him to know that I don't need the fucking money and that I'm willing to get us both fired if he wants to be a pain in the ass because I don't need the job. But he just tripled his income and he has a family. And if I get us both fired, I can go get a job that I could go work at Walmart and be fine and pay the rent. I'm not an idiot. I live well below my means. But if he gets fired, he'll probably get divorced. He'll probably get divorced. His wife probably won't find it acceptable that he took a 70% pay cut instantaneously. Right? And so when I start pushing him in this way in work, he just instantaneously rolls over in the meeting, instantaneously like taps out, stops blocking me on things because he just doesn't have a path to win with me anymore because I'm willing to fuck us both. And then this changed the way that people on his team interacted with me. Now they knew that if you want to fucking screw with Jake, watch out. He's PvP flagged and he's willing to blow us all up. And I stopped getting fucked with in meetings. Now, if somebody pushed back, it was for a legit technical reason. And this made my work experience way better. All right. And this wasn't unethical. Like, this guy was trying to do something that's bad for the company and bad for me. And I basically defended myself. Okay. But this kind of shit exists all over the place in the world. All fucking over the place. Here's like another weird one that was at work. I was not a very productive engineer because I wasn't willing to do things that I thought were beneath me as far as like how they would affect the company. And so I just like did a whole lot of nothing. A lot of times I just thought like all the tasks that we could do were beneath me because I'm a little full of myself, not because I'm actually like super excellent. I'm at the top of the bell curve with intelligence among engineers, you know, so that means I'm not special. I'm not to the right of the bell curve. Maybe I'm a little to the left even. And something else that was interesting at work that I was keyed into was people who I worked with found me really interesting because I would do shit like this, because they would see me be brave in a meeting without knowing anything, without like actually being an incredible engineer or highly productive. They would just see that I could like push certain things the way I wanted simply because I cared less. Simply because, and this is a thing that happens with guild leaders, if you're a fucking guild leader or a raid leader, you will know this. Low performers that don't care what you do to them, the nature of them not caring gives them power over you. Gives them a lot of power over you. And so I had power over others simply by not giving a fuck at my job. This made it kind of funny for people to observe me. And in a weird way, it was acceptable that I was less productive at work simply because people found it interesting that I was a fucking crazy person. And this would play out in weird ways. Like my manager would, right before I quit my job, like 6 months before, started talking to me like, hey, Jacob, you know, I'm going to have to like fire you one day, you know, like start the pip stuff. If you don't start being more productive, like, could you do that? It's like really fun to have you on the team. And I was like, nah, Sarah, I'm not going to change. If you have to fire me, you can go ahead. It's like, whatever. But she like let me kind of screw around for a couple years because I was just down to clown. And I would do stuff that was like strange at work. Like, for example, one of the things was one of my coworkers, their car just stopped working, and I just like drove them to and from work for like a month, which like took a lot of my time. But I knew it actually had a much greater impact on the team's productivity than anything I could do engineering wise, because he was like the all-star technically on the team, and I was saving him like an hour a day because he was taking public transit because he's a fucking moron. He's a moron because he made a lot of money, so he shouldn't have been taking public transit. Not because public transit's just for morons. It's a math thing. If you make enough money per hour, don't fucking take public transit. Or another weird thing that happened at work was my manager's son smoked a fucking ton of weed and was like ruining their life. And she told me about this, like, I'll hang out with your son. Like, I'm only like a little older than him. Bring him to work. We'll just hang out for like a couple days, and I'll like try to convince him that like making a lot of money is kind of cool, and that he should like fucking take advantage of his insane intellect and try to do something with his life, because it'd be so easy for him if you just try. This kid's like way smarter than me, as an example. And that's like totally inappropriate for work, but it actually generated a lot of value for the team, and I was able to do it really quickly, because it's like literally like hang out with someone who's like 4 or 5 years younger than you, but it's more productive than actually working on engineering projects for like 3 weeks. If it makes my manager just a little more productive because she's a little less stressed, then I mean, who cares what the most junior engineer pulled off, right? But these are things that are very hard, I think, for people to see clearly, because they're not really understanding what matters. Like on your team, you need your manager to be able to make a case that you shouldn't be canned, and then they need to want to have you on the team. That's about it. You need to do some things. You got to create some artifacts, so that way your manager doesn't have somebody else swoop in and be like, I think you're just playing favorites and you like Jake. So you need to do just enough that way your manager can dodge that, and then they just have to like you. And if that's good, you're a good employee. At least you'll get the same treatment as a good employee. Now, bringing this back to WoW, there's shit like this in WoW also. I love asking people inappropriate fucking questions when I meet them in the game. I fucking love it. I'd say they're inappropriate because most people would not ask them, not because I ask things to people and then they feel uncomfortable. I'm pretty good about not making people uncomfortable. And something that where this has come up before was I've asked people who I thought were trying to be funny. Like, I got the feeling that they weren't just funny, they didn't just like saying the things they said and felt comfortable with the way people responded, like they were seeking out being funny or like charismatic, and I've cornered people before and been like, are you trying like on purpose, like trying like in your head the thought like I want to be cooler? I've asked this to like 4 people over the years, and when I've asked it to said, yeah, that is what I'm doing. I am, and they always they dance around because it feels so weird to say, but it's like I want to seem cooler in the friend group, and then I've talked to them about what kind of things you can do for that to happen, or like how people like just how you could tell people view things. This is one that you most likely have noticed if you're in any guild where people like hang out quite a bit and where there is not a super consistent level of performance. So like unless you're in an insanely good guild, most likely your top like 4 or 5 DPS players like in some way do a lot better than everybody else. If you appear really strong at something that people care about, and then for example you're really quiet, they don't just think, oh, that guy's a high DPS player and they're quiet and I don't know anything else about them. No, no, no. This is what happens. They try to project what they value as very valuable onto you. If they think like you're cool, you're just a little cool because you're a really good DPS player, and then they know nothing else about you and you're really fucking quiet, then you're mysterious and they're going to think other things. Like, so for example, me, I really value stuff like someone being a great team player or someone being really passionate about doing almost anything. Just like they have to have like something that they're passionate about. They like want to improve at. And I also like it if I also think it's cool when people like things where they will generate artifacts of their success. And so if you join my guild and you're a super high performer and you're fucking quiet, I'm probably going to accidentally think that you're busy and you do really important stuff and you're this super high status person in the real world, which this is all psycho to think that this is anything, that these are true things. You know, it's like all that is true is you do a lot of damage, you're quiet. But this is just how people naturally are. Or other ones would be, it's way, if you want people to like you, it's way easier for you to learn to see how people are connected and how there are common traits between people and to become really, really interested in people. It's because instead of being interesting yourself, if you are interested in someone, they will like you a lot. And this is not something I think that you can probably fake, at least not long term, but I am really, really interested in people, and especially in the people I play with. And this makes them feel interesting, and I know it makes them like me. It's much easier to be interested than to be interesting. And it doesn't take skill. I've ran into tons of people who are goofy, that put their foot in their mouth, but are really kind and like giving other people the floor to talk about their stories, and they are considered extremely charming by everybody. But this isn't the kind of stuff that I think normally people talk about, because it's way cooler, I think, to have this idea that you can make yourself the kind of person that comes into a room, people kind of crowd around and they just want to hear you talk. That's ridiculous. That's like probably not really in your control unless maybe you try to go into a profession where you just get tons and tons of cycles of trying to say things and failing and looking stupid. But you can cultivate your like own internal interests and whatever you want by putting your time into it. And if you put lots of time into talking to people and listening to their stories and trying to think how they're similar to other people's, you're going to end up interested in people. It will happen. I would bet, for example, most people who are, and this is just a guess, I bet people who are therapists seem extremely interesting to other individuals. I assume that's almost definitely a thing. I remember I worked in a psych lab when I was in college as a lab manager, and it was a brand newly instantiated psych lab, which is why I would be able to be a lab manager because there wasn't a whole lot to manage. I just had to basically make sure that the IT infrastructure got set up correctly and some other things like sterilized water lines and other shit that we needed to perform experiments in the lab. And everybody in the psych lab was interested in psych and interested in people. And what do you know? All of them got along fucking fabulously and were really interested in each other. Whereas, I was an engineering major, and this is not fucking true in engineering labs where people are trying to fucking dick measure all the time and don't really care about each other all that much. And not to say that it's in an evil or a mean way, they're just much more interested in the engineering problems and math and fucking semiconductors and code, and not as much as in each other. And although they would have respect for each other, they weren't, my friends who were involved in research for engineering weren't hanging out with their co-researchers all the time, unlike in this fucking psych lab where everybody who worked there fucking hung out. All of us. It didn't matter if you were like the 19-year-old freshman volunteering or you were the 32-year-old medical school graduate who decided that research sounded more cool than trying to become like a psychiatrist. Either way, people were just all in, fucking hanging out and having a good time. And they got research done too. It's like tier 1 research university. It's not like it's a fucking social club. This kind of stuff can make your life, in my opinion, a lot better if you keep it in mind. This will be a thing that I've seen before in the game too. People will get into fights with each other, and they'll tell me, probably because they're like, Jake's interested in me. And this has happened in all my guilds, and happened rather. I've been guild leader, raid leader, not just some guy. And something, for example, is if I thought that if you felt like you had a problem with somebody, and you're worried you damaged your relationship with them, and you came and talked to me about it, and I thought that you guys spent a regular amount of a certain amount of time with each other each week. Like if I knew you guys fucking hung out like one-on-one for a couple hours a week every week, I'd be like, well, I mean, they're interested in you because they spend time with you. And then you'd probably be like, oh, that doesn't mean a whole lot. I spend time with a lot of people. It's like, no, you don't get it. It means a lot with every one of those people you spend a lot of time with. You are part of their routine. Do you have any idea how hard it is to swap your routine? You're addicted to spending time with them in the same way you're addicted to cigarettes or smoking weed or or eating a high sugar diet. And you can just brush past this, or just make a joke about it and then try to invite them into a different type of conversation, and they're just gonna roll with it. They want to get back into the routine. They don't want to have this static in their relationship with you. And this is just how people work. Or someone will complain about how something in a guild's going, and somebody will be like, I'm worried this guy's gonna G quit. And I'm like, why do you think this guy's gonna G quit? Because they complain so much. They even said something bad about you, Jake. I'm like, yeah, okay. There's no chance they're gonna quit. They hang out with us fucking 15 hours a week. Well, yeah, but they said all this stuff. Yeah, but what if they were getting divorced and they said all this stuff? Would that change your mind? Well, they're not getting divorced. Yeah, but what if they were and all this happened? Would you think it was the divorce, or would you think it's the fucking raid, or us? I'm like, well, it's probably the divorce. Okay, well, there's things like that going on in people's lives all the time, constantly. People aren't thinking about that. But if you run a group, this will become more apparent to you, because you'll hear about people's catastrophes pretty regularly, because most people feel the need to explain their behavior when it comes to attending raids and stuff like that. So, someone's having their mom or dad die, and in my guild, there's probably 65 individuals that raid. Someone's parents dying every week. Every fucking week, a parent or at least a grandparent's fucking dying. Or with that many people, once a month, someone's getting fucking cancer. For real. It's crazy. There's somebody missing rent. There's people getting fired from their jobs. There's also awesome things happening. There's people getting life-changing opportunities every month, and they get to share that with us. But all these things really impact the way that they behave, and especially the things they say. people put too much credence on what each other say instead of looking at what they do. There are people I play with that if you fucking raid with me, you're gonna know this is a thing. All right, I'm just saying. The fucking main tank in one of the groups, I don't even have to say which, if you fucking raid with me, played with this guy for ever. It's been like 6 years, and sometimes he'll say mean stuff, but he's always there to help out. Always spends a lot of time with the team, and he makes it obvious that he values people performing highly. He's super invested. If he's having a bad day and he says something that's rude, it doesn't make a blip on my radar. I know what kind of dude he is. But somebody who's not as experienced with him might not understand that there's this big history of the actions he's taken. And they're fucking awesome. And his behavior's been stable over time. And it doesn't matter if what he says is less stable than what he does, obviously. But I think we, maybe naturally as like humans, we think it's the words we generate mean a whole lot. I mean, like for example, like this video, like this is not edited, this isn't scripted. I just hit record, and if I don't fuck it up too bad, then I don't do another take. So it's like take number 3 or something. I've been doing this for 30 minutes today. And if I had an extremely bad night sleeping, this just wouldn't exist at all. And I wouldn't have had any of these ideas. And it's not that I wouldn't believe these things, but this video would not have came into existence. Or maybe it would have been a different one. Like maybe this would be me bitching and crying about something on the internet instead of it being positive. I hope this seems positive. Or at least I hope it's funny and I seem like a fucking psycho, because that also is something that I enjoy. Anyways, I've gotten pretty far from where we started in here. To wrap things up, it's way easier to be interested than it is to be interesting. I've seen people call this before reverse charisma. So if you feel like you wish you had an easier time making friends, or it could even be if you're a raid leader or a guild leader and you wish that you could use soft power and get people to buy into a mission or a vision, and just have them naturally want to do the things that you want to do. And you wish you didn't have to pull rank on people and recruit and show people that they're expendable if they don't listen to try to get leverage over them. You can instead find ways to make them really value their time around you and your guildies. And that's how you can get leverage over them. You know, like I'm going to fuck up really bad with my guild in some ways, I'm sure, over and over again. It's going to keep happening. But I know that what I have here is extremely valuable to my members, and they will, even if they didn't like me, granted, I think they all like me, but even if they didn't like me, they would act extremely slowly when it comes to damaging their relationships with each other because they value them. Most guilds aren't like that. They need to use other things to achieve leverage over their members and get them to behave a certain way. Things where they feel forced instead of things where they feel like it's an opportunity. Instead of make it feel like it's an opportunity for people to do the things you wanted them to do. And also, you could try stuff like maybe you should talk less if you're not getting the results you want from the things you say. And ask people some uncomfortable things too, so you can learn shit about them. Anyways, if you hate this weird cloak and dagger stuff, you could always just hit me up in Discord and join my guild, and then that would just be way easier, right? Like, why run guilds? That's for fucking idiots. That's like all these guys you see in Stormwind with guild tags that are like officers. What's wrong with them? They should just be playing with me instead, and that should be you too. Hit me up. Peace.